Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining this research workshop. I'm Louie Juera, your lecturer for this course. So, according to Lao Tzu, a Chinese philosopher, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. However, taking that first step consumes tremendous amount of courage. For instance, let's assume we want to lose weight by doing a proper diet and regular exercise. Thinking about those things is easy, but deciding when to start, then the mañana, mamayana habit or procrastination becomes the biggest problem. Same with research or thesis writing. Starting is the most challenging. That is why in this lecture, I will share some tips on starting your research based on my experience and my professors at the university. So let's get started. Some undergrad or graduate school thesis writers often start their research by deciding what statistical tools they are going to use. I'm not saying that it's wrong. Maybe it was part of the requirement, writing style, or perhaps they didn't know where to start. That is why most readers judge the paper's value based on the complexity of the mathematical treatment used. That's the problem. A paper should be assessed based on the problem or research gap it was attempting to address. Take note that statistics are only tools to solve or resolve the issue. Hence, even if we use the most basic statistics like t-test or ANOVA, as long as our results contribute to the existing knowledge or solve practical problems, I think we did a good research paper. So in this slide, I will share my six-step process to start your research. I'm not saying that this is the only way to start your paper. These steps are based on the lectures of my professors in the PhD program, Dr. Rek Igia, and my experience in doing research. Remember the saying, there are many ways how to kill a cow. Hence, you can develop your process as long as in the end, you kill the cow. So the six steps are: number one, think about the topic of interest. Number two, create a concept map. Number three, list some problematic scenario or research gap. Number four, conduct intensive literature review. Then number five, conceptualize your framework. And then number six, develop your working title. One of my philosophies in life is doing things for love. So it may sound cliche, but this is what I chose to believe. Let me ask you this question. Despite the hardships you are facing in your studies, like terror professors, unsolvable exams, and even failing grades, what keeps you taking your course? Or in a relationship, what keeps you doing things for your girlfriend, boyfriend, or wife and husband, like hatid sundo every morning and night? Some of you might think because it is your responsibility to study or to make chores for your loved ones. Remember this: if you keep doing those things because you feel it is your responsibility, I will tell you that someday you will be tired of doing those things, especially when you think unreciprocated. That is why do things like studying or hatid sundo because you love your course or the person you are doing it for. Same with research. You have to select a topic that you love so that the burden will be transmuted to passion. So, for instance, my interest lies in the intersection of technology, anthropology, and development, as shown here. So, you can also create your Venn diagram to conceptualize the field that you want to study. Then, you have to do an extensive literature review on your topic of interest. For instance, I can read books, journals, magazines about technology, development, and anthropology. Then, I can further my search on the intersection of technology and development. anthropology and development, and anthropology and technology, and the three fields. So while exploring the concepts, I highly recommend doing a concept map or a picture of what you understand so far in your readings, just like this one by Sophia Cosi in spsp.org. You can use a piece of paper, bond paper, to do this map. However, I prefer to do it digitally, like in my laptop or iPad, for secure storage, backup, and retrieval. So while you are doing your literature review, you must keep in mind that you are trying to find a problematic scenario or a research gap along the way. Every researcher has their definition of what is a research gap. So let us take a look at some examples or snapshots. Jasmine Fernandez of the Indian Institute of Technology Indore defines it as a problem which has not been addressed so far in a particular field. Curti Algo from the Anton de Com University defines it as a lack of empirical studies either from a certain theoretical perspective or methodological approach. Also, John Isaac Mueta from Tumaini University Dar es Salaam College defines the research gap as a missing link in the existing body of knowledge for which a new research is proposed. So from these definitions, we can say that research gap is why we have to do research, which can be identified through an intensive literature review. So to confirm that a research gap or problematic scenario is a gap and a problem, we have to conduct a thorough investigation of the existing body of knowledge. In this way, we can check if there is no existing study that addresses the issues at hand. One of my professors in qualitative research, Dr. Mervyn Gascon, taught us of a tool called Table of Theories to help arrange and synthesize our readings. I also included my sample TOT as shown here. So although paraphrase material column takes a lot of time, this will come in handy when you start writing your paper, I swear. So at this moment, you have some understanding of a research gap or problem you want to study. It is now time to create your conceptual framework. This is the most crucial figure in your study. It will give the readers a snapshot of your thesis. So the most common conceptual framework is composed of two rectangles connected by an arrow as shown here. So the box on the left is the independent variable, the predictor, the cause, the stimulus, or the X, while the box on the right is the dependent variable, which is the response, the effect, or the Y. The arrow indicates the causal effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable. So in this workshop, we will limit our statistical analysis to test the difference of means, meaning our conceptual framework will look like this. So let us discuss these frameworks one by one. So in the first figure, we have two variables, the gender and the attitude towards abortion. So the gender as the independent variable has two items. We have male and female. The dependent variable attitude towards abortion is unobserved or latent, meaning that this variable cannot be measured directly compared to height, weight, the color of hair, the grades, which are observed variables. Hence, we have to create questions that will attempt to measure this variable. Usually, we use a Likert scale or bipolar scale to measure the response. In our example here, we have 5 questions. To measure the attitude towards abortion using a 5-point Likert scale. Getting the average of the mean of these questions will give us, in this value here, 4.6, which is the attitude of a particular respondent towards abortion. So let's say we have 10 respondents. then tally each mean attitude as shown here. So we want to test if, on average, there is a significant difference between the attitude towards abortion between males and females. So in this type of study, we can use independent t-test or Mann-Whitney test depending on our data's normality. So let us explore the other framework. So in this example, religion is our independent variable while family size attitude is our dependent variable. Same with the previous framework, the dependent variable is latent or unobserved. Again, let's say that we created 5 questions to measure this variable. Although the process is similar, the difference lies in the number of items in the independent variable. In the previous framework, we had 2 items, male and female, while in this example, we have 3, Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism. In this particular example, the researcher might be interested in studying if, on average, there is a significant difference in the family size attitudes based on the 3 religions. Hence, we have to use the analysis of variance or ANOVA or Kruskal-Wallis test depending on the normality of data. In the 2 examples above, the difference lies in the number of items in the independent variable. However, these 2 frameworks are similar in the sense that both have different participants for each item or category in the independent variable. So let us take the second example and assume that you are a respondent of the survey and you have a strong faith. So if the questionnaire will ask you about your religion, how many of the options are you going to select? Of course, you have to choose one, either Christian, Islam, or Hinduism. So we are assuming, again, that those 3 religions are the scope of the study. Hence, you cannot submit a new response with a different religion, right? However, there are some cases that a respondent of a survey will have to answer 2 items in the independent variable. This type of research is commonly seen in the experimental or engineering research. So let us take a look at this example here. So let's assume that you are an engineering or IT student and developing a device that will measure the object's height or level using ultrasonic sensor. Hence, you have to measure the participant's height using manual, then using ultrasonic device. Your tabulation may look like this. So the project's goal is to automate the height measurement for faster readings without compromising the accuracy of the results. So in this particular study, you are interested in knowing if there is a significant difference in height measurement between manual and your device. As much as possible, you should have a result saying that there is no significant difference in the measured values. So in this particular scenario, we have to use paired or dependent t-test. Of course, assuming that our data is normal. Otherwise, we have to use the Wilcoxon sign rank test. You can also use this test for experimental design before and after treatment scenario. So by now, you should have a basic understanding of the importance of conceptual framework and what statistical treatment to be used to test the difference of means. Although not part of the workshop's scope, it is essential that you understand other forms of conceptual frameworks such as shown here. So in this study, the researcher might be interested in explaining the effect of job stress and salary towards job satisfaction. So if this is the conceptual framework of the study, we can use multiple regression analysis or MRA. Although running this test in software is very simple, there are many assumptions that the data or the residuals must be satisfied. Without considering these assumptions, might result in wrong conclusion and recommendation. So if you are interested, you can check the link below for a different lecture. If you have the conceptual framework of the study, then creating a working title will be easy. For instance, in this conceptual framework here, we can have titles such as the effect of religion to family size attitudes, or a comparative study of family size attitudes with different religions. Making a title will be easier because you already have a picture of the study. So if you have some questions or clarifications, please comment down below the video and I will try to answer your questions as soon as I can. So good luck and God bless.